What is a 1% shift that you can make in your smoking habits that will lead you towards a positive relationship with marijuana and yourself? What's going on, everybody? Gabriel Santos here, the author of Marijuana Mindfulness, the ebook. And just as I said, we're talking about what's a 1% shift you can make in your smoking habits that can drastically change your life in a positive way. So, a little bit of context. If you're familiar with personal development, you are already aware that making small shifts can create big changes. And there's actually a mathematical graph that shows that making small shifts every day will lead to massive change in the long term. Whereas if you make small shifts towards the negative side, same thing happens in the negative way, right? So what I know from experience when it comes to marijuana use is that if you're someone who's smoked every day, multiple times a day, and you're aware that your life isn't really going the way you want it to, and you are dependent on it emotionally, psychologically, what have you, and marijuana has become such a staple in your life that it has more control of you than you have of it, and you serve it more than it serves you. Okay. And so what a lot of people do is they go for dramatic shifts, like I'm gonna quit for life, I'm not gonna smoke for a year, or even saying like I'm not gonna smoke for a week. Now, don't get me wrong, many people have set themselves on big goals like that, dramatic shifts like that, and they make it. And if you're someone who has already done that or wants to do that, by all means, right? There's nothing wrong with making dramatic shifts. If anything, that's great, right? But I also know that from experience that when I made big shifts early in my journey, I kind of set myself up for failure. And what I mean by that is, I I went for big shifts, big goals, right? Like I'm not gonna smoke for X amount of weeks or days or years, and I'd fail, right? I put myself upon a journey that was unsustainable, especially when you go from smoking every day to not smoking at all, and it's like, wow, your whole being is turned upside down, right? So instead of trying to do that, try and think of a 1% shift that you can change in your smoking habits. And ideally, it's such a small shift that you barely even notice it. And it's such a small shift that it's easy to do. Easy to do, right? So I'm reading a book called The Atomic Habits, great book, listening to it on audiobook. And the contents of this book are all about, obviously, habits. And this guy, the author, he really breaks down the science and the the research behind how habits work. And it's a great book. I highly recommend picking it up, The Atomic Habits. And one of the things he says is, when we're creating new habits, we want them to be easy. We want them to be convenient, attractive, repeatable, and to create as little friction in our current lifestyle as possible. And what I mean by friction is, for example, if you wake up at 5:30 every day, or let's say you wake up at 7 a.m. every day, and you want to add the habit of I don't know, like working out in the morning, right? If your morning routine doesn't, hold on, scratch that. Okay, the example he used is, if you want to work out, it's better to have if the gym is already on your commute to work, then that's ideal. But if the gym is the opposite way from work, or it's way convenient, it like throws off your whole morning, that's not ideal, okay? You want this 1% shift habit to be as in alignment with your current lifestyle as possible. So what does that look like, right? What does that look like? Let's say you smoke weed first thing in the morning, right? What's a shift that you can make there? A 1% shift. A suggestion I'd make to you is the night before, maybe set up exactly how much weed you're gonna smoke. And just have it laid out, kind of like you would if you're going to the gym. You might lay out your gym clothes and your shoes right next to your bed, right? So it prompts you. If you're someone who, I know I've seen a lot of people use those prescription pill cases, where it has the days of the week, and you can specifically put how much weed you're gonna smoke that week in that little case. Another shift you can make. Shoot, I just thought about it. Oh, instead of calling it like smoking pot or getting high, a shift you can make internally with language is consuming THC. I know that's a big shift for me that really changed my world. Because when I would say things like, oh, I'm gonna get stoned, I'm gonna get blown, I'm gonna smoke my face off, I'm gonna get high, or I'm gonna get blitzed, right? All those type of languages, all those phrases kind of play into the stoner, the lazy, the irresponsible, at least for me, right? But when I would say consuming THC, that felt more conscious, that felt more responsible, that felt more self-aware, that felt more accurate, right? Because that's really what you're doing. You're consuming THC. That's really what you're doing. Getting stoned, that's like, that kind of feeds into the childlike version of smoking weed. You get what I'm saying? Now, there's nothing wrong with using that language. I'm just saying, in terms of feeling empowered, in terms of 1% shift, in terms of being someone who is responsible and in control, consuming THC was a shift that really changed my life. But yeah, hopefully that made sense. One final piece. If you keep doing what you've always been doing, you'll keep getting what you've always been getting, right? So if you don't make any change at all, big or small, your life's gonna go the fucking same way. Okay, so just consider all you need to do is make a 1% shift, right? A plane going to New York, if it shifts 1 foot to the right or 1 foot to the left, it's gonna end up not at New York, somewhere else, right? So if your current trajectory with your weed smoking habits is more depression, more shame, more guilt, more self-loathing, more apathy, make a 1% shift. A 1% shift. You can do a 1% shift. I fucking know that, all right? And you can end up somewhere else. You can end up with contentment, satisfaction, self-care, right? And from there, continue to make shifts. But try not to make it such a big fucking thing. Like, I don't know how many times I was like, I'm done for good, right? I throw away my weed, right? Like, I get it. I empathize with that scenario. Did it countless times myself. But yeah, have a great day. Have a great weekend. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.